My name is Anna Carolina, and I died from an illness, not from old age. I died exactly as God had warned, and I chose to ignore. For 3 days, I had 2 chances to avoid my fate. 3 days in which heaven screamed at me through dreams, through people, through signs that I simply dismissed as coincidence. Today, I am to tell what I saw on the other side, to tell about the angels I saw preparing, about the final battle that approaches, and about how Jesus looked into my eyes and gave me a mission that would change everything. This is not just my story. It's a warning, the same one that was given to me and that I wasted. But before getting there, before telling about the gates of heaven and what happens when your heart stops beating, I need to go back 3 days, to the night when it all began, to the night when my husband woke up in a cold sweat, with my fresh blood still in his memory. I was a simple woman, one of those you pass on the street and don't even notice. 34 years old, married for 8 years to Roberto, my companion through all battles. No children yet. That was our next struggle, our next dream. We lived in a rented apartment in Campinas, 2 bedrooms, tight budget at the end of the month. I was a house cleaner, a maid as some prefer to call it. 6 regular houses during the week, occasionally an extra on Saturday when finances were tight. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid the bills. And there was dignity in it, you know? I left each house sparkling clean. It was my pride. Roberto worked as an assistant in an auto repair shop, hands always dirty with grease, oil smell that even the strongest soap couldn't completely remove. But they were honest hands, hands that hugged me every night before sleep. Our faith? Oh, our faith was, how can I say, peripheral. We went to church a few times a month. We prayed before meals, especially when we had visitors. We believed in God, of course, but in that distant way, you know? God was there, somewhere in the universe, taking care of big things. And we were here, taking care of bills, rent, life. I didn't know that God was much closer than I imagined. I didn't know he was about to shout my name. It was Tuesday, March 14th. A date I will never forget. Not for what happened that day, but for what would happen 3 days later. That Tuesday, I had just gotten a new job. A big house, from a family I didn't know. Donna Margaret had referred me, one of my regular clients. Anna, I have a friend who needs someone for a heavy cleaning. Big house, pays well. Are you up for it? Of course I accepted. The extra money would be good to start saving for our dream of having a child. We scheduled for Friday. 3 days later, I went to sleep that Tuesday feeling calm. I kissed Roberto, thanked God for the day, turned off the light. I had no idea that, at that exact moment as I drifted to sleep, God was preparing a warning, the first of 2, and that both would come through dreams. Roberto was never one to remember dreams. He slept like a rock. He even snored. He would wake up, stretch, and head to the shower without ever mentioning any nocturnal image, any dream fragment. So when he shook me at 3:20 in the morning, breathless, sweat running down his forehead, I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. Anna, wake up. I opened my eyes, frightened. The first thing I thought was that someone had died. My mother. His mother. Some bad news that only arrives in the middle of the night. What is it? What happened? He was pale. Even in the dim light of the bedroom, I could see that his face had lost all color. I dreamed about you. You dreamed about me? Anna. His voice trembled. His hands, those strong mechanic hands that held heavy tools without flinching, trembled like leaves. You cannot go to work on Friday. You cannot go to that house. I turned on the bedside lamp. I sat up in bed, starting to get irritated. 3:20 in the morning. I had to wake up at 5:30. Roberto, what is this about? I saw it, Anna. I was there. It was so real, my God. It was so real. And then he told me. In the dream, he saw me arriving at a house that he described in details that gave me chills. Gray gate, black bars with golden tips, a front garden with white stones, a 2-story house with a broken window on the 2nd floor. I went in, started cleaning. Everything normal, until a man appeared. What man? I asked, now more attentive. I couldn't see his face, but he was wrong, Anna. Everything about him was wrong. And Roberto swallowed hard. Tears started flowing. He hurt you. Attacked you. I saw blood, Anna. A lot of blood. I saw you falling. I tried to scream, tried to run to help, but it was like I was behind glass. I could only watch. And then, he took my hands. I saw you dead on the floor, and I heard a voice. I can't explain where it came from, but it was as clear as if someone was beside me. The voice said, "This is the warning. She cannot go." I remained silent for a moment. Then I sighed. "Love, it was just a nightmare. You must have eaten something heavy for dinner, or—" "No!" He had never yelled at me like that. "Anna, please. I've never asked you for anything like this, but I'm begging you. Don't go to that house on Friday. Cancel. Make up an excuse. Anything." I looked at him, saw the genuine fear in his eyes. And yet, I didn't believe. "Roberto, we need the money. You know that. And it's just a cleaning job. I've done hundreds of them." "Anna, enough. Let's sleep. You had a bad nightmare, but that's all it was. A nightmare." I turned off the light. I rolled over. But I couldn't go back to sleep properly. Not out of fear, but because Roberto stayed awake. I could feel it. He lay staring at the ceiling until the alarm went off. Wednesday dawned cloudy. I was finishing cleaning at Dona Clusa's house when my cell phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Anna? It's Fernanda. Fernanda from the church cell group." Fernanda. I knew her by sight. We participated in the same prayer group, though I was quite irregular in attendance. A sweet, quiet woman. We weren't very close. "Hi, Fernanda. How are you?" "Anna, I need to talk to you. It's urgent." Something in her tone made me stop cleaning the kitchen counter. "Go ahead. I know this will seem strange, but I dreamed about you last night." My stomach tightened. "You dreamed about me?" "Yes. And Anna, it wasn't an ordinary dream. I woke up at 4 in the morning with my heart racing. I went to pray, and the more I prayed, the stronger the certainty became that I needed to call you." "Fernanda, what did you see?" There was a pause. "I saw you in danger, in a house I didn't recognize. There was darkness in that place, Anna. Not physical darkness, but spiritual, as if something evil was waiting. My hands began to sweat, and then I saw you falling, and there was blood, and I heard a voice, so clear, Anna, saying, 'Warn her. It's the last warning.' When I woke up, I knew I had to call you." My heart was beating erratically now. 2 dreams, 2 warnings, on 2 consecutive days. "Fernanda, when would this happen? In the dream? I don't know for sure, but there was a feeling of imminence, that it would be soon. Very soon." After hanging up, I stood in the middle of Dona Clusa's kitchen for long minutes. 2 warnings. Roberto, Fernanda. 2 people who didn't know each other. 2 almost identical dreams, both mentioning a voice. Both saying it was a warning. And I had scheduled a cleaning job at an unknown house in 2 days. That night, I sat with Roberto at the kitchen table. "Fernanda called me today." He looked up from his plate. "She also dreamed about me. Saw the same things you did." I saw hope arise in his face. "So you'll cancel?" I remained silent. My mind was a whirlwind. Part of me was scared. 2 warnings were significant, impossible to completely ignore. But another part, the rational part, the part that paid bills, whispered doubts. Dreams are just dreams. Coincidences happen. If I start canceling jobs because of nightmares, where will it end? And the money? And our plans? I don't know, Roberto. What do you mean, don't know? Anna, God is speaking to you. 2 people, 2 dreams. What more do you need? I need to think. There's nothing to think about. It's obvious. But it wasn't obvious to me. Because accepting that it was real, accepting that God was warning me of something terrible, would mean accepting that I lived in a world much more dangerous and unpredictable than I'd like to admit. It would mean accepting that my control over my life was illusory. Thursday passed. I received a message from Dona Margaret confirming the address for the next day. Acacia Street, 428. Grey Gate. My blood froze when I read Grey Gate. Roberto had described a grey gate. I spent the entire afternoon divided. I picked up the phone 1,000 times to cancel, and 1,000 times I put it back in my pocket. That night, I barely slept. Roberto didn't either. At 5 in the morning on Friday, he hugged me in bed and whispered, "Please, don't go." I kissed his forehead. "I'll be fine. You'll see." It was 6:15 when I left home. Roberto stood at the door, looking at me with an expression I will never forget. It was as if he was seeing me for the last time. And in a way, he was. The bus dropped me off 3 blocks away. It was a cold morning. March in Campinas can be like that. That damp cold that penetrates your bones. I was wearing my blue hoodie, that faded one Roberto always said I should throw away. I walked slowly, my backpack with cleaning products bouncing against my back. Acacia Street was one of those places where you immediately realize you don't belong. Big houses, high walls, imported cars and garages. Silence. A silence too heavy. I found number 428, and my heart stopped. Gray gate. Black bars with golden details. Front garden with white stones. Exactly as Roberto had described. Exactly. I stood frozen on the sidewalk. My mind was screaming, "Go back, run, get out of here now." But my feet wouldn't move, because there was still that rational voice. It's just a coincidence. Many houses have gray gates. You're letting yourself be carried away by paranoia. I looked up. 2nd floor. A window. With broken glass. Exactly like in Roberto's dream. At that moment, something inside me broke. A shiver ran down my spine, not from cold, but from pure primitive terror. I took 2 steps back, and then my cell phone rang. It was a local number. "Hello? Anna? This is Margaret. Dona Vera is already waiting for you. She said the gate is open. Just come in. She's on the 2nd floor, not feeling well enough to come down." "Dona Margaret, Sorry for the rush, dear. I'm heading into a meeting. If you need anything, you have my number. Bye." She hung up. I stood there, holding the phone. Dona Vera was on the 2nd floor. Not feeling well. I had 2 choices. Enter that house, or turn around and admit that dreams had defeated logic. I took a deep breath and pushed the gate. The garden had that smell of wet earth mixed with a sweet perfume of flowers that I couldn't identify. The front door was ajar. "Dona Vera?" I called, my voice strangely muffled. No response. I entered. The house was beautiful. Marble floor, expensive furniture, everything very clean, which made me question why they needed a maid. "Dona Vera? I'm Anna, the house cleaner." Silence. Just the sound of an old clock ticking somewhere. I left my backpack in the living room and climbed the stairs. Each step creaked slightly. The sound echoed in the empty house. On the 2nd floor, there was a long corridor with 4 doors. "Dona Vera?" One of the doors was open, the one at the end. I walked to it, my heart beating harder and harder. Inside, there was a bedroom, unmade bed, clothes scattered around, and a man, with his back to me, standing, motionless, as if he were waiting. Excuse me," I stammered. "I'm looking for Dona Vera." He didn't answer. He didn't move. And then, slowly, he began to turn. I didn't see his face completely. My mind didn't process it. Everything happened too quickly. I only saw his eyes. Empty eyes. Completely empty. And something in his hands. Something that gleamed. Metal. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. He advanced, and I felt it. First there was pressure. An intense pressure in my abdomen. Then, heat. A wet heat spreading. I looked down and saw red. A lot of red. My hands touched the wound, trying to understand, trying to make it stop. I fell to my knees. The man was over me now. I saw the metal rise again. Come down. Go up. Come down. The pain was indescribable, as if my body was being torn from the inside out. I tried to crawl. I left a red trail on the wooden floor. He followed me. More blows. In the back, in the neck, in the chest. I stopped feeling my legs. I stopped feeling my arms. My vision began to darken at the edges. I thought about Roberto. Thought about his face this morning begging me not to come. Thought about Fernanda. Her voice on the phone. It's the last warning. And then I thought, God warned me. Twice. And I ignored it. The last thing I saw was that white ceiling. The last thing I felt was cold. A cold that came from within. And then, darkness. There was a moment, impossible to measure in human time, perhaps a second, perhaps an eternity, when I simply knew that it was over. My last conscious thought was surprisingly calm. So, this is how you die. And then everything went black. There was no tunnel of light, not immediately. First, there was the void. A void so complete, so absolute, that it was impossible to know if I still existed. There was no sound, no light, no darkness, because darkness is still something, and there was nothing. I couldn't feel my body, didn't feel pain, didn't feel anything. And then very slowly, I began to perceive that there was still an I. I was still thinking. Therefore, I still existed. But where? The first sensation that returned was lightness. As if I had spent my entire life carrying an immense weight, and suddenly someone had simply removed it. There was no gravity, no fatigue, none of that constant tension in the shoulders that I didn't even know I carried until it disappeared. And then, a light. But not an ordinary light. It was as if the light came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It didn't hurt the eyes. It had no source. It simply was. And in that light, I began to see. First, I saw my body, down below, sprawled on that wooden floor, in a crimson puddle that slowly expanded. It was destroyed. There was no other word. My blue hoodie was torn, soaked. My face turned to the side, eyes still open, but empty. And the man was still there, standing, looking at what he had done. I expected to feel horror, to feel disgust, to feel anger, but I felt nothing but detachment. It was like looking at old clothes that you wore for a long time but no longer fit. That's not me anymore, I thought. And it was true. I was here, above, floating. Although floating is not the right word because there was no air, no gravity to float against. I began to move away, not by my own will. It was as if there was a gentle, invisible current pulling me softly upward. I saw the room receding, the house, the roof. I saw the street below, the other houses, the cars, everything getting smaller, faster now, the entire city below me like a map. The streetlights still lit in that cloudy morning looked like small earthly stars. And then I passed through the clouds. On the other side of the clouds, everything changed. The light became more intense, more alive. It was as if each particle of light had its own consciousness, as if the light itself was happy. I know it sounds crazy, but I have no other way to describe it. And then I began to realize that I wasn't alone. There were presences. I couldn't see them clearly yet, but I felt them. Thousands of them. Millions, perhaps. Moving around me, some stopping to observe me, others following their own journeys. I tried to speak. My mouth didn't move. I realized I didn't have a mouth, not anymore in the way I knew. But my thought went out. Where am I? And to my complete surprise, I received an answer. Not in words, not in sound. It was knowledge that simply appeared in my consciousness. You are on the path. Path to where? To home. Tears, or whatever was the spiritual equivalent of tears, began to flow. Because for the first time in my life, I understood what the word home meant. Not the rented apartment, not my parents' house, but the true home, the place I came from, the place I was always meant to return to, the place I never knew I was looking for until that exact moment. The light began to concentrate in front of me, forming something like a tunnel. But tunnel is an earthly word, too limited for what I saw. It was as if all the love in the universe had taken geometric form. The walls, if I can call them that, pulsed with colors that don't exist on Earth. They weren't new versions of known colors. They were other colors, completely different, impossible to describe to someone who still sees only through human eyes. And each color sang. Yes, sang. a harmony so perfect, so complex, that I could feel the spiritual tears flowing nonstop. Music that you don't just hear, but feel in every particle of your essence. I began to move through this tunnel. Faster, faster. The presences around me became clearer now. Angels. I saw angels, not with bird wings as in paintings, but beings of pure light, with forms that subtly changed, as if they were made of solidified thought. Some looked at me, and when they looked at me, I felt their gaze like a wave of love so intense it almost undid me. "Welcome," one communicated. "A little more," said another. "He is waiting," whispered a third. My spiritual heart raced. I knew who he was, and the instant I had that thought, I saw the light. The light. At the end of the tunnel, if there was an end, there was a light so bright, so absolutely radiant, that it should have blinded me. But it didn't. Instead, the more I looked, the more I wanted to look. It was magnetic, irresistible. And coming from that light, I felt him calling me. Not with words, but with love. A love so deep, so complete, so unconditional, that all earthly loves combined, mother, father, husband, child, were just a drop compared to the infinite ocean of that love. And I knew, with absolute certainty, I was going to meet Jesus. I exited the tunnel and entered, how can I describe? I entered the presence. It wasn't a place. It wasn't a space. It was like being inside love itself. The light was everywhere, in everything, inside me, around me, above, below, except that there was no more above or below. There was only this. And then he appeared. Jesus. I cannot completely describe his face, because each time I tried to focus, I saw something different. Sometimes, he looked like a young man, with deeply gentle eyes. Sometimes, he seemed older, with wisdom that transcended ages. Sometimes his face was pure light, impossible to define. But his eyes, his eyes remained constant. Eyes that knew me, completely. Every thought I had ever had, every choice, every lie, every kindness. Everything was exposed before him, and yet, there was no judgment. Only love. I fell to my knees, or the spiritual equivalent of that, and cried. Cried like I had never cried in life. Because for the first time, I saw myself. Really saw myself. Through his eyes. I saw my smallness, my stubbornness, my arrogance disguised as practicality. I saw how I had ignored his warnings, how I had chosen my logic over his protection. "Forgive me," was all I could think. "Jesus, forgive me." And he smiled, a smile that contained all the compassion of the universe, and said, not with a voice, but directly into my soul, "Beloved daughter, you are already forgiven. You always were." He extended his hand, and when his hand touched mine, everything changed. Suddenly, we were no longer just in that space of light. We were in my life. I saw everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. It began with my birth. I saw my mother holding me for the first time, tears of joy streaming down. I saw my father, young and awkward, afraid to hold me because I was so small. I saw my childhood, the games, the laughter, but I also saw the times I was cruel to other children, the times I lied, when I stole candy from the small store. And I didn't just see my actions, I saw their impact. When I stole that candy, I saw the store owner, Mr. Joaquim, counting the money that night, confused because it didn't add up. I saw his sadness, the mistrust he began to have of the neighborhood children, a 5-cent candy, and I saw the domino effect it caused. I saw my adolescence, first love, first kiss, but I also saw the girl I teased at school, Juliana, the chubby one everyone made fun of. I saw her going home and crying into her pillow. I saw the years of therapy she underwent because of bullying. I saw how it affected her self-esteem into adulthood, and I was part of that. Tears flowed nonstop. I didn't know, I thought. I didn't know how much it hurt. Now you know, Jesus responded gently. Now you understand that every action, every word, every thought resonates through eternity. The review continued. I saw my marriage to Roberto. I saw the beautiful moments, our improvised honeymoon in a simple inn, the laughter, the plans. But I also saw the arguments, the harsh words I said that deeply hurt, even when he pretended they didn't. I saw his loneliness when I prioritized work and left him aside. And then, I saw the last 72 hours. I saw Roberto having that dream. I saw his real terror. I saw his desperation trying to convince me. And I saw my refusal. I saw Fernanda praying on her knees at 4 a.m, begging God for clarity, because she knew the message was important but was afraid of seeming crazy. I saw the courage she had in calling me, and I saw myself dismissing it, rationalizing, choosing money, 300 rees, over 2 direct warnings from God. The shame I felt was overwhelming. I was foolish, I thought. So foolish. Jesus squeezed my hand. You were human, he said. And I know how hard it is to hear when the world screams so loudly. But Anna, I warned you, not once, but twice. Because I love you. Because it wasn't your time yet. You had more to do. Had? I asked. Have, he corrected. And then I understood. Jesus took me to another place. Now we were above, far above. I could see Earth below. Small, blue, spinning silently in the void. But it wasn't just the physical Earth I saw. It was, how to explain, it was the spiritual Earth too. I saw the layers. I saw the material dimension. People waking up, going to work, living their lives unconsciously. But I also saw the spiritual dimension. Angels ministering, demons tempting, invisible battles happening on every corner, in every heart. You see now? Jesus asked. I see, I answered, amazed and horrified at the same time. Because the war was real. It wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't symbolic. There was a literal war happening. For control of Earth, for the soul of every human being. And humanity slept, completely unaware. They don't know, I whispered. No, Jesus confirmed, sadness in his voice. Most don't know, can't see, don't want to see, because seeing would require choosing, and choosing would require changing. He pointed to different parts of the globe. See there. I saw a woman in Africa, praying fervently, protecting her children spiritually without knowing it. I saw angels responding, creating a barrier of light around that humble hut. And there, I saw a man in New York, in his luxurious office, making a silent pact with dark forces in exchange for success. I saw demons smiling, sealing the deal. Every choice, Jesus explained, is a battle won or lost. Every prayer is a weapon. Every act of genuine love is a victory. And every selfish choice, every lie, every betrayal, is territory ceded to the enemy. And the war is, I couldn't finish, approaching its end, he completed. Jesus took me to another space. This was, how can I describe? It was an assembly. Thousands. No, millions of angels. They were, preparing. Not like human armies. Not with physical weapons. But there was an intensity, a purpose, a seriousness that was impossible to ignore. I saw angels of different hierarchies. Some were small, delicate, like dancing flames. Others were immense, powerful, with a presence that made the spiritual air vibrate. All were focused. All were waiting. Waiting for what? I asked. The final order, Jesus answered. Order for? The last battle. My spirit trembled. When? Jesus looked at me with those infinitely deep eyes. Soon, Anna. Very soon. The signs are all there. Humanity sees them but doesn't understand. Knowledge has increased. Travel has multiplied. Love has grown cold. Iniquity has overflowed. He pointed to the angels. They are ready. They have always been, waiting only for my word. And when that word is given, he didn't need to finish. I saw in my mind what would happen. I saw the heavens opening. I saw angels descending like lightning. I saw the separation, the wheat from the chaff, the sheep from the goats. I saw judgment, not cruel, but absolutely just. I saw salvation for those who chose love. and I saw perdition for those who chose darkness. And I understood, with absolute clarity, time was running out, not in centuries, not in decades, but in years, perhaps less. Jesus embraced me then. And that embrace, how can I describe a hug from God? It was as if all the love that ever existed, that exists and that will exist, enveloped me all at once. I felt completely known, completely accepted, completely loved, despite everything, despite my flaws, despite my stubbornness, despite having ignored his warnings. He loved me. I cried on his shoulder. I'm not worthy, I thought. No one is. He responded softly. But I love you anyway. That is my nature. I love. That's all I know how to do. Why did you bring me here? I asked. Why did you show me all this? Because you need to go back. I pulled away, confused. Go back? Yes. It's not your time yet, Anna. I warned you because I have plans for you. And those plans haven't been fulfilled yet. But my body, it's destroyed. Jesus smiled. I am the God of resurrection, remember? That body you saw down there, I can restore it. If you choose to go back. If I choose? Yes. Here, Anna. You have free will. You always had. You always will. You can stay if you want. Your salvation is assured. You accepted me. You genuinely repented. The gates of paradise are open for you. I looked back. I saw those gates, impossible to describe, made of solid light and crystallized love. I saw beyond them a glimpse of everything. Peace, joy, total absence of pain, reunion with loved ones, home. But, Jesus continued, if you go back, you go with a mission. What mission? To tell, to warn. Just as I warned you and you didn't listen, there are millions who aren't listening. You'll go back and you'll shout. You'll tell about what you saw here, about me, about the angels preparing, about time running out. No one will believe, I argued. Some will, and those some will touch other some. And so the message will spread, as it always has, as it always will. I remained silent, divided. Staying there was everything I wanted. But going back, I thought about Roberto, my Roberto, who tried to save me, who had to live with the guilt of not being able to convince me. I thought about Fernanda, who had the courage to call a semi-stranger because of a dream. I thought about all the people who needed to know that God is real, that Jesus exists, that time is running out. I'll go back, I decided. Jesus smiled, a smile of pride and love. I knew you would say that. But Jesus, how? I was dead for. I looked at something that resembled a spiritual clock. Almost 20 minutes. For me, he said, time is merely a suggestion. Jesus took me back to the tunnel, but now I saw it differently. Each angel that passed, I saw clearly, and all, stopped to look at me. Some smiled, others waved. One of them, immense, with a presence that seemed to fill all space, placed his hand on my spiritual head and communicated, "Be strong, be brave, and tell what you saw." I reached the edge between that world and mine again. I could see earth below, the house, my body still there, in a pool of blood that had already begun to dry at the edges. Beside me, Jesus held my hand. "It will hurt," he gently warned me. "Returning to an injured body, it will hurt a lot. But I will be with you. Always." "I know," I replied. "Don't forget what you saw here." "I won't forget. Don't forget what you felt." "Never." "And Anna," he held my face with both hands, looking deeply into my eyes. "Don't forget that I love you, that I have always loved you, that I will always love you. No matter how many times you ignore my warnings, how many times you fall, how many times you doubt, I will always be here, always waiting, always calling." Tears flowed. "I love you too," I whispered. "I know," he smiled. "Now breathe." And then he released me, and I fell. It wasn't gentle like the ascent. It was violent, fast, like being sucked into a vacuum. I saw the heavens distancing at an impossible speed. I saw the light diminishing. I saw the colors returning to normal colors, and they seemed so pale, so lifeless compared to what I had seen. I passed through the clouds. I saw the city approaching, faster, the house, the roof, the room, and then impact, pain. Oh my Lord, the pain. Every nerve screaming at once, chest on fire, abdomen torn, exposed, back lacerated. I couldn't breathe. My lungs weren't working. There was blood in them. I tried to cough. Blood came out of my mouth. I tried to move. I couldn't. My body didn't respond. And the pain, the pain, the pain. How had I forgotten how much it hurts to have a body? I wanted to scream. No sound came out. But somehow, miraculously, my heart beat. Once, twice, irregular, weak, but beating. And then I heard voices, distant, muffled. Body here! I need an ambulance at Acacia Street, 428. Woman, approximately 30 years old, multiple stab wounds, a lot of blood. Someone had found me. I felt hands on me, pressing on the wounds. Hold on there, she's alive! I feel a pulse, she's alive! More voices, more people, sirens in the distance. Everything becoming clearer, slowly, painfully. I opened my eyes. Light. Blinding light. But not like the light before. This one hurt. A face above me. A young police officer, eyes wide with shock. Miss, can you hear me? Stay with me, okay? The ambulance is coming. Stay with me. I tried to speak. Jesus. That's all that came out. The officer looked confused. What? Who is Jesus? Is that who did this to you? I wanted to laugh. Or cry. I didn't know. Jesus sent me back. And then I fainted again. But this time, it wasn't into the light. It was just into the normal human darkness of shock and blood loss. I woke up in stages. First, sounds. Monitor beeps, muffled voices, hurried footsteps. Then, sensations. Rough sheets, cold in the arms, cold saline entering through the veins. Smell of disinfectant. Lastly, pain. Oh, the pain. It was still there, but controlled now. Morphine, probably. I tried to open my eyes. They weighed tons. When I finally succeeded, I saw white. White ceiling. Fluorescent lights. Hospital. I turned my head, each movement in agony, and saw Roberto. My Roberto. Sleeping in an uncomfortable chair beside my bed. Head tilted at a strange angle. Deep dark circles under his eyes. Unshaven. How long? I tried to speak. My throat was dry as sandpaper. There was a tube. I moved my fingers. I could do it. I tapped lightly on the bed rail. Roberto woke up startled. When he saw me awake, his face... Oh, his face. It was like watching a man resurrect. Anna! He jumped from the chair, fell to his knees beside the bed, held my hand as if it were the most precious thing in the universe. Anna, you came back. You came back. Thank God you came back. Tears streamed down his face nonstop. I squeezed his hand. It was all I could do. A doctor entered, attracted by the noise. Mrs. Anna, can you hear me? Blink once if yes. I blinked. Great. I'm Dr. Henrique. You're at Campinas Municipal Hospital. You were attacked. Multiple stab wounds. You arrived here clinically dead. No heartbeat. No breathing. We managed to revive you. But honestly, Mrs. Anna, it's a miracle you're alive. He checked some devices, then looked at me with an expression that mixed confusion and reverence. You lost almost 60% of your blood. You had a perforation in your liver, in your intestine, a collapsed lung. By all the laws of medicine, you shouldn't be here. I looked at Roberto, then at the doctor, and whispered, voice hoarse from the tube they had removed. Jesus sent me back. The first 48 hours were a whirlwind. My mother arrived from Sorocaba, hysterical. My father trying to be strong but crumbling every time he left the room. Fernanda appeared on the third day. When she entered the room and our eyes met, we didn't need to say anything. She knew. She simply knew. She came to my bed, took my hand, and cried. You saw, didn't you? She whispered. I nodded, tears flowing. I saw. He sent you back. Yes. With a message. Yes. She squeezed my hand harder. Then when you're ready, we'll tell the world. The doctors were intrigued by my recovery. I've never seen anything like it, Dr. Henrique admitted a week later. Your organs are regenerating at a speed that isn't normal. The liver is already 70% healed. The intestine has healed perfectly. It's as if your body were in accelerated healing mode. I knew why. Jesus had promised to restore me, and he kept his promises. But not everything was easy. Readjusting to having a physical body after experiencing spiritual freedom was suffocating. Everything seemed heavy, slow, limited. I remembered how it was to have no gravity, to feel no fatigue, to not be trapped in this shell of flesh and bone. And now I was back in prison. A necessary prison. A prison with purpose. But prison nonetheless. The colors of the world seemed faded, as if someone had turned down the brightness of everything. Food had no taste. Music I loved seemed like noise compared to the celestial harmony. And people lived so unconsciously, worried about such small things, arguing about soap operas, about soccer, about politics, about who said what. And I wanted to scream, "Don't you understand? None of this matters. The war is happening. The angels are preparing. Jesus is coming back." But I contained myself, because I seemed crazy enough just for having survived. Roberto noticed the changes immediately. "You're different," he said one night, as he helped me change the bandages. "Different how?" "I can't explain. You look at things in a distant way, as if you weren't fully here." I sighed. "Part of me isn't." He stopped what he was doing and looked at me. "What did you see there, Anna?" I held his hand. "Everything. I saw everything." And then I told him. I told him about the light, about Jesus, about the angels, about the life review, about the battle that approaches. Roberto listened in silence, tears flowing. When I finished, he whispered, "I tried to warn you. I know. God used me to warn you. I know. And you didn't listen. I know." I squeezed his hand. "And I'll carry that for the rest of my life. But Roberto, God gave me a second chance. And this time I will listen. And I'll make everyone listen too." He hugged me, carefully, not to hurt my wounds. "I believe you," he whispered. "I always believed. Since that dream, I knew it was God speaking." "You have a gift," I said. "God speaks to you through dreams. And now he speaks through you," Roberto responded. "You died. You came back. You have authority now. You have a story that no one can deny." He was right. And in the following days, I began to understand the magnitude of my mission. 3 months after my death, I was a completely different person. Physically, the scars remained. 8 in total. Thick lines crossing my abdomen, back, chest. I saw them as medals, proof that I had been there, that I had returned, that God is real. My worldview had been turned upside down. Things that used to worry me, money, appearance, others' opinions, now seemed absurdly insignificant. I had seen eternity, had seen that this life is just the blink of an eye, a test, a preparation. The real game was happening in the spiritual dimension, and I now saw that dimension leaking into this one. Not completely, not like there, but glimpses. Sometimes looking at someone, I felt the darkness or light around them. I didn't literally see it, but I perceived it, like a newly awakened sixth sense. Genuinely good people had a lightness, almost a subtle glow. People full of bitterness, hatred, evil. There was a heaviness, a shadow. And demons twice, I saw them, once at the supermarket. A horrible creature, all distorted, whispering in the ear of a man who was violently arguing with his wife. Another time on the street, several of them around a group of young people who were clearly dealing with drugs. I prayed immediately. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, I saw angels appearing to fight them. Roberto also changed. The dream had been a watershed moment for him. Now he prayed. Every day. Sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night and I would find him on his knees in the living room. "I don't want to ignore when God speaks anymore," he explained. My family had mixed reactions. My mother believed completely. She had always been religious and saw my experience as confirmation of everything she had always known. My father was skeptical. Hallucinations caused by lack of oxygen, he said. But I saw the doubt in his eyes, the willingness to believe. Friends? I lost some. They thought I had gone crazy, that the trauma had broken me psychologically. But I gained others. People who had gone through similar experiences and who never had the courage to tell, found in me a voice. Fernanda became my best friend, my spiritual sister. She also had gifts, prophetic dreams, words of knowledge. Together we started a small prayer group, 6 people initially, then 10, then 20. People thirsting for something real, tired of empty religiosity, wanting the God I had met, the Jesus who hugged me. 6 months after my death, I made my first video. Roberto set up the cell phone. I sat in our simple living room and told my story. No editing, no rehearsed script, just me, my scars, and the truth. We posted it on YouTube expecting, I don't know, maybe 50 views, maybe 100. In 1 week, it had 50,000. In 1 month, 500,000. People shared it, commented. Some skeptics, many believers, all touched. I began to receive messages. Hundreds, then thousands. Your story made me come back to God. I was about to commit suicide. Your video saved me. I didn't believe in anything. Now I believe. And I understood. This was my mission. Not just to tell my story, but to use my story to awaken others, to warn them of what's coming, to prepare them. I quit my job as a house cleaner. It no longer made sense. I began to travel. Churches invited me to testify. Small ones, large ones. It didn't matter. I went, and I told, and I saw lives changing. Money? It meant nothing. We lived on donations. And always, always there was enough. Jesus wasn't kidding when he said, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these other things shall be added to you." Fame? Repugnant. Sometimes people recognized me on the street and wanted to take selfies. I hated it. It wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about him. Success? Redefined. Success was no longer a bank account or home ownership. It was how many souls were touched. How many lives changed? How many people woke up? And relationships? Oh, relationships became sacred. Each conversation was an opportunity to plant seeds. Each interaction, a divine moment. I stopped wasting time on trivialities. Life was too short. And time, very short. 1 year after my death, I wrote a book, The Last Warning, My Journey Between Death and Life. It was released by a small Christian publisher. We didn't expect much. It sold 100,000 copies in the first month. People were hungry for hope, for confirmation that there is something beyond, that death is not the end. And my story gave exactly that. But always, always. I ended with the warning, Jesus is coming back. The angels are ready. Time is running out. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't ignore God's warnings like I did. Some criticized me. You're using fear to convert people. But it wasn't fear. It was urgency. There was a difference. I didn't want people to serve God out of terror of hell. I wanted them to know him for the love he is. But they also needed to know that choices have eternal consequences, and that the time to choose was ending. I'm sitting now in the same apartment where it all began. 2 years have passed since that fatal morning on Acacia Street. My killer? Arrested? Tried? Convicted? He was a homeless man with untreated schizophrenia who had broken into the house. Dona Vera didn't even exist. It was all a mistake, a trap of fate. Or was it exactly what needed to happen for me to meet Jesus? Sometimes I wonder, if I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, would I listen to Roberto that Tuesday? The honest answer? I don't know. Because yes, I would avoid the pain, avoid death, avoid trauma. But I would also miss the encounter, miss seeing Jesus face to face, miss the mission. And now, having seen what I saw, having felt what I felt, how can I regret the path that led me to him? So let me tell you something, you who are listening to me now, God speaks. It's not a metaphor. It's not symbolic. He really speaks. Sometimes through dreams, as he spoke to Roberto and Fernanda. Sometimes through people, circumstances, impossible coincidences. Sometimes through that quiet voice inside you that you insist on ignoring. And when he speaks, listen. Because he doesn't speak in vain. He speaks because he loves you, because he knows you, because he wants to protect you, guide you, save you. I didn't listen, and I died. Literally. But I had a second chance. Most don't. Most ignore, procrastinate, rationalize. And when they realize, it's too late. What I saw there wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't lack of oxygen. It wasn't my brain creating comforting fantasies in the face of death. It was real. More real than anything in this world. The angels? Real. The spiritual battle? Real. Jesus? Real. So real that he held my hand and sent me back. And time running out? Also real. I can't give you a date. Jesus didn't give me one. But I can tell you what I felt. Urgency. A palpable urgency. Like when you know a storm is approaching. You feel it in the air, feel it in the pressure, feel it in your bones. The storm is coming. The last battle is near. And you need to choose your side. I'm not asking you to be perfect. No one is. I certainly am not. I'm not asking you to become a saint overnight. I'm not asking you to abandon your life and enter a monastery. I'm asking something much simpler. Listen. When God speaks, and he will, I promise. Listen. When you feel that tightness in your chest saying, don't do this, listen. When someone calls you out of nowhere with a warning that seems absurd, consider it. When you have a strange dream, an impossible coincidence, a clear sign, pay attention. Because God doesn't shout. He whispers. And if you're making too much noise with your life, with your worries, with your distractions, you won't hear. I almost didn't hear. And I paid the price. But the good news, the best news, is that it's never too late. As long as you're alive, as long as you're breathing, there is time. Time to change. Time to choose. Time to meet the Jesus I met. The Jesus who is not the Jesus of religion, of rules, of judgment, but the Jesus of love, of the tight hug, of undeserved forgiveness, of the second chance. He is waiting, with open arms, no matter what you did, no matter how far you've gone, no matter how much you ignored him. He is there, waiting, calling your name. You just need to turn and listen. My name is Ana Carolina. I died on March 17th, in a house on Acacia Street in Campinas. I was stabbed 8 times by a stranger. I lost 60% of my blood. I was declared clinically dead for 23 minutes. And I met Jesus. He hugged me, forgave me, loved me, and sent me back. With a message. Time is running out. The angels are ready. The final battle approaches. And you need to choose. Today. Now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you get your life together. Today. Because you don't know if you'll have tomorrow. I thought I did. And I was wrong. Don't make the same mistake. Choose life. Choose love. Choose Jesus. Before it's too late. And if you already know him, if you've already made your choice, then be my voice. Tell your story. Share your faith. Warn people. Because each of us is a messenger. Each of us has a network of influence. And someone in your life needs to hear what you have to say. Don't leave it for later. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Speak. Now. Because now is all we have. The rest is just promise. And promises can be broken by death. I know this better than anyone. Jesus told me, right before sending me back, Ana, you will tell this story thousands of times, and you will get tired. You will want to stop. But don't stop, because each time you tell it, a soul awakens. And one soul is worth more than the entire universe. So I don't stop. I won't stop. As long as I have a voice, I will tell. As long as I have breath, I will testify. As long as I have life, I will warn. Jesus is coming back. Are you ready?